Hey guys, it's Tepco Cycle Repair. Today working on a Kodiak. I believe this is the 400 4x4, and the complaint here is that it constantly leaks gas when it's not running. So we know with these Yamahas here that they have a O-ring that seals around the float intake. There's a little gasket around there and the float needle intake there, so we're going to check that. But we're going to pull the carburetor off on this. Shouldn't be too hard. Got a couple Allen keys up top here, a couple push buttons. Going to take all the stuff off. The carburetor on this bike is below the tank, so it's deep inside of there. So we're going to go ahead and get everything out of the way right here. It'll take me a minute, and then I'll check back. Stand by. Nothing. All right, so now you can see that we're down, got the gas tank still on here. We got the covers off. We got 4 10mm, one there, one on the other side, and we got one on each side up front. And then the fuel line we're going to pull off right here. And after the fuel line is off, we should be able to just kind of leave this on and just swing it up out of the way. Yeah, we should be able to do that. So let me get this tank off. All right, so you can see I'm just kind of pulling it up on an angle, and I'm able to get the on-off valve through here, no problem. If you have a problem, you don't want to do that, just there's a Phillips head in here, you can take this whole knob off. But I'm able to just kind of pull it up out of the way here, so we'll get this tank out of the way. All right, so now there's a couple zip ties here. We're gonna just cut these and move this out of the way so we can get to the carburetor right there. And look, they're probably missing that. All right, with the cover out of the way, we have access to the carburetor here, and I want to show you something that this is why Yamahas and Hondas and older bikes, name brand ones, are better. Watch how this carburetor is. See, everything's still flexing. Everything is still nice and rubbery, no problem. So when we get this thing apart, it's not going to be an issue. So let's go. We got 2 Allen keys here. We got one there to get that out of the way. The air box comes off by a couple 10mm. I'll just pull that up out of the way so it's easy to get the carb out. This is a line here for the CV on the top. So just an open vent line here. The throttle cable's on this side, so we'll go around the other side, take that off, and we got the choke cable here. We need to be careful because these will, if you just jam these things and you're not gentle with them, they'll break. So you got to unscrew this and pull it straight out. Let's get this all out of here. All right, so I got both of these clamps loosened here. I'm going to go ahead and take the choke out. This is the enricher plunger, 12mm. Some of the bikes, these are really hard to get to, but this one's nice and easy. Inside of this is going to be a plunger spring. All right, so make sure you don't lose that. Just pull it up out of the way. All right, we got some vent lines in here we got to pull off. If lines like this are hard to pull off, don't just yank them as hard as you can. Twist them and see if you can pop them free, and then pull them off, and they'll come off nice and easy. Okay, and I got the 2 airbox bolts off right here and here, and I just pulled them out, get them up on top. You see this whole thing's wanting to come out now. So let's pull this out of the way. All right, so when I pull that airbox out of the way, there's another line right here on the front, a little vent line, and it's also leaking a lot of oil out of the box here. And the line that I took out of there was filled with oil also. So the air filter looks pretty dirty inside there. So it's going to need a good cleaning. And that oil in there is usually from back pressure from the case breather. Either riding wheelies and stuff, sometimes you'll get a lot of it out there. If your bike's on weird angles, it'll blow it up through the case breather into your air box. All right, from pulling the air box out, this carburetor just came out, so we're going to go ahead and take the throttle cable off. All right, so we have a drain line coming out of the bottom. All right there, you can see that. You want to make sure that stays on. We're going to take it off now, but when you put the carburetor on, don't forget to put that back on so your gas, any overflow, drains out where it's supposed to. So let me get that off. All right, and then with that off, I just flipped it over on its side. We have 3 Phillips heads right here we're going to take off, and then the throttle cable's underneath there. All right, so with the 3 screws out, when you take this off, there's an O-ring underneath here. It seals it, and a bunch of rust apparently in this one. See that seal right there? Don't lose that little, that's just sitting in there. It's supposed to sit in the groove right here. All right, and then we have all that in there, which is no good. Let's see. It's still working. So we can dump all that water out of there. We'll address that later on. Okay, so we got to take the throttle cable off. This round pin right here sits in there loosely, so when you push the throttle all the way up, you just manually, right here, you see the cable kind of pops up right there, see that? And you have to get the cable all the way to that position, then pull it straight out. Alright, so it looks like this right here. Alright, so the reason that it's like this is because this piece right here has to come off in order for you to get the cable out through here. So now the cable is going to pull out through here. Alright, so I'll be able to get the cable, and this little end piece will fit through the housing right inside there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this right here, loosen it, and back it all the way out, and take the cable out. That housing should be coming out too. Stand by. Alright, and the cable's out. Alright guys, so it's 93 degrees outside here in North Carolina today, and the humidity is very high. So here we are inside of my AC shop right here. First thing we're going to do here is give this a good cleaning. Just spray it all down, wipe it down with a toothbrush, and make sure it's clean before I even get into this thing. Alright guys, so before I start taking this apart, I like to use an automatic center punch, and all these Phillips heads down here, I just pop them with the automatic center punch, and that helps loosen them up so you don't have to worry about stripping them. Looks like this one here has already been stripped a little bit. I'm using a nice number 2. This is a snap-on bit, works the best for me. That was on there. Alright, these 4 are off. We're going to pull the bowl off. It feels like it's stuck a little bit. I'm just going to tap it. You don't want to mess up that gasket. Alright, got a little crud inside of there, not too bad. These gaskets, as soon as I hit gasoline and they're not in their place, they tend to swell up. So immediately try to get them right back into where they should be, so they can rest in the spot where they're going to stay. Inside here, it looks pretty good. I don't see anything really dirty. We're going to pull these jets out and take a look. But if we're talking about overflowing problem, remember our complaint was that it would overflow fuel while it was sitting. It's going to be either the overflow, where the float is just something stuck inside there and it's not cutting the fuel off. Alright, fuel looks like it's operating good. Float height looks perfect. We're going to pull this off, clean that out, and I'm going to see how tight that the needle seat is in there and see if that's our problem. So let's pull that off here. Just going to loosen that Phillips head right there, and that'll allow us to pull the float pivot pin out and take that whole setup right there out. Just going to put that aside. And this is what I'm looking at right here. Around the outside of this, there's an O-ring, so we're going to go ahead and loosen this screw. Alright, so before we get started here, we're dealing with an overflow problem. I'm looking inside that hole. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a piece of debris in there. So let's get it out. Let's see what we got. Can you see that? Right there. That little piece of debris right there. Right, it feels like it's a piece of rubber or something stuck in there. And that won't let the needle close all the way. That's going to be our problem right there. So let's make sure it didn't come off of this. Okay, that looks fine, still flexible. I'm going to wipe everything clean. We're going to do a carb clean while we're in here, but quick carb clean for these. We're just going to pull out our, it's got a main jet, secondary main jet here, and then we have our pilot jet. So we're going to pull a pilot jet out just to make sure, because these are the ones that usually get clogged first. They're so small. All right, this is 17.5, and we're going to look and see if we can see any light through that hole. And I can, it looks good, but I'm going to spray some cleaner through it. Yep, flowing good. Blow some air through it. It has a lot of holes on the sides. Make sure all those holes are clear. All right. Make sure those little holes right there are clear as well. They all look good. Pilot jet's good. I'm going to check out the secondary main here. These holes are a lot bigger, so they usually don't get clogged. It's a much bigger hole in there. That's clean. I think I got glasses on, just sprayed some cleaner in my face. This carburetor looks pretty clean. It's not like many that I've seen. Put that back in place right there. Our main jet here looks like it's taking the emulsion tube out with it also. Alright, so there's the emulsion tube. We have all those little holes in the side of that one as well. If you're able to see that. Holes there. We're going to see they all look clear. This is like a splash ring. This helps fuel from splashing around in the bottom of the bowl. It helps hold a little bit of fuel where the main jet is, so it doesn't splash around when you're riding and get little air pockets sucked in there. So just make sure that you put that back in. This looks good. So we're going to check this needle seat anyway. I really don't want to disturb it if it's not messed up. And being that I found that chunk inside of the intake, I'm just guessing that that was the problem there. So we're going to go ahead and just take the screw out here. All I'm going to do is when I take this out, is just wiggle it around and make sure that it's in there nice and tight. So the problem you have with a bad one of these is that this right here, when you put your finger on it and try to move it around, it'll wiggle. And this one's in there nice and tight, so we're not having a leakage problem past that. That's not going to be it. So I'm going to put that screw back in. If that was loose at all, anything at all, I would take it out and replace that O-ring in there. Okay, so we're good there. Let's clean this, the tip of this off right here. I'm going to use some just some lubricant on this. I don't want to use anything real aggressive on the rubber tip. Alright, so I'm going to clean that up. And then inside the seat right here, where we had that piece of debris, I'm going to take a little bit of polish, and I like using the semi-chrome for this. Alright, so I use semi-chrome for this. Just take a dab of it. Just a little tiny bit right there. Stick that in there and just spin it around. Make sure it's nice and clean. That's because it's brass, and whenever you're polishing brass with that semi-chrome, it's going to come out black. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily dirty. All right, we're looking good in there now. So that's our intake right there. I'm going to shoot some carb cleaner through there so it blows out of the intake right there. These are all good. We have our mixture screw right here too. This one's set at 1.5. The way that you figure that out is, and we're going to check all the stuff here, you're going to take this and just lightly turn it in. Okay, so here's your mixture screw. We're going to turn that in, half, 1, half, 1.5. Back it all the way out. There's going to be a spring, a washer, and an O-ring in here. You don't want to lose them, so we're going to make sure it's all clean, looking good in there. We don't have any buildup. All right, so that's what the needle looks like. You see a little crap on the end of that there. We're gonna clean that up. Then there's our spring. And now we have a washer and an O-ring that are in there. I can see the O-ring, but I don't see a washer in there. It looks like it's missing the washer. I'll have to go dig one up. So let's get that out of there. I just use a little tiny hook. All right, so there's the O-ring, but it's missing a washer. You can see on the O-ring where it was, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but you can see where the spring was pushing on it. So I'm going to go grab a flat washer for that, and I'll be right back. All right, so luckily I have one. So guys, if you got any bad carburetors and stuff, and you're throwing them out or you're chucking them bad ones, these are the little parts you need to strip, because you don't want a bike to sit here in your garage for a week waiting for a little tiny silly O-ring. But that's a very important O-ring, because you want it to keep even pressure on this. It's an important washer, I should say, because you want to keep consistent pressure on this O-ring so that it seals it properly. All right, so let's get that cleaned out inside of there. The hole looks good. I'm going to blow some cleaner through there. All right, when you spray it in there, it should be coming out of your pilot jet and spraying that hole. There's a little hole up here. It should be coming out in the body of the carburetor. All right, so let's put this back together. I'm going to clean up that needle right there. Again, with a little bit of, I'm just going to use some semichrome on my finger. Just kind of spin it clean. All right, make sure we got no debris on there. And then the way that this goes is you're going to have the spring, the washer, then the O-ring. All right, that's how that goes together. Now we're going to stick it back in. Get that screwed all the way in just till it lightly seats. Remember, you don't want to over tighten this, because there's that little pin. I've seen them get stuck in there and break off the tip of the mixture screw. So we're going to get it in right till it stops. Right there. I'm going to go half, 1 1/2, same as it was set to before. Now the slide is in here, and if you want to see how the slide works, you want to make sure that that's working good, you can use a little bit of air and blow it in the vent line right here. You can see it come up, all right? Alright, so it looks like it's working fine. So we're going to leave that. Now there's a diaphragm up inside of here, and there's an O-ring. So you got an O-ring, there's an O-ring right here, and a diaphragm in here. You don't want to get any carb cleaner or anything on that diaphragm, it'll mess that up. For this particular bike and what they're complaining about, we've solved the problem by taking that piece of debris out of there, so we're going to put it back together again. If you take that diaphragm apart, the top part, and it has any kind of wrinkles in it, so here's an old diaphragm. If it's got all kind of wrinkles in there, like see that one right there? That one was causing this particular one not to work. So you want to make sure this is nice and smooth and doesn't have any wrinkles. Somebody sprayed this with carb clean, you see it shrinked it all up and messed it up. But that's what's underneath here with the spring. Alright, so we're going to put the needle back in. On this needle, there's a small spring pin that's right there. Make sure that that's working properly. We're just going to hook it on here. Drop it back in. Get that pin underneath the holding screw right there. Okay. I'm going to put it back on. So the bowl right here, we're going to clean it out, get any of this debris and stuff off of here. All right, so we're going to spray that and get that all cleaned up. I'm going to take a Q-tip, get all the debris, anything out of there. I'm just going to put a little bit of this. This is good to put any of your O-rings or anything you're using. Just going to put a tiny bit and just put it around the O-ring to make sure that it helps kind of rejuvenate it. So your overflow pin right here, this overflow tube, you want to make sure there's no cracks in anything. If you got a crack inside of there, the gas will bypass everything else. This overflow here, if you got gas going up high enough, you can see that it's higher than the bowl. If it goes up that high, that's when it'll leak out. So if your bike is on a crazy angle, it'll leak out of there too, that's fine. Make sure our needle, everything works good in there before we put it back together. Because we have one screw that's going to handle our, let's see, one goes right inside, and here it handles that bracket right there. Then we got the other three. Don't over tighten these things. Don't gorilla tighten them. Just get them tight. Snug them up. There's a spring underneath here and a little air cut off also underneath that. We're just going to make sure that's moving properly. You want to hold it down when you take it off because there's a spring underneath it. All right, looks like it's working fine. I don't see any rips or tears in there. It looks good, so we're going to just put that, reassemble that. Spring in the middle. Alright, so we got this back together again. Inside of here, the rust was being caused by that Allen key that's down inside of there. That was rusting and just getting everything nasty in here. So I'm just going to clean it all up in here. I'm going to spray some WD-40 lubricant in there. And then we're going to put a little bit of grease around this seal when we put it back together to make sure that we help prevent as much water as we can and moisture from getting in there. Alright, so I have a unique problem here. This plastic housing that sits inside of here was supposed to stay with the cable, but the cable pulled through this and it came out and it got stuck in the middle of it and I had to pull it out all the way. So you can't get this back on. This is kind of a one size fit. It kind of shrinks down on it. So what I'm going to be using is this red shrink tube, and when the tube shrinks down, it shrinks to the same diameter, and this is what it looks like when it's shrunk. Alright, so it shrinks down to the same size. So I'm going to get it, I cut a piece the same length, and what I'm going to do is this also has a little flare right at the end. You see a little flare, so that it sits inside of there. So I'm going to put it down to about where I need it when the cable is in there, and I'll wrap something around the cable so that this end part stays flared out, and then we'll slide it in there and see if that works. Let's give it a shot. Alright, so this is what I got set up here. I got some paper tape wrapped around there for the flange. I'm going to slide this on just enough so it sticks out there. I'm going to heat it up. It should shrink down fine. I should get the flare that I need, and then I'll just slide it out of the way, pull the paper off, and then I'll have the housing. Let's see how it does. Alright, so far so good. I got the bit of a flange that I need right there. Just got to get that paper tape out of there now. I'm going to cut it right at the lip right there, and it should be able to slide it right in. I'm just going to let it fully cool down. Alright, I think we're pretty good. This slides on here nicely. Just got to slide it into the carburetor. I'm going to use some little bit of grease in there to help slide it in. Let's get it together. There we go, guys. It's in. Golden. Looks like it was made for it. Let me get this cable hook back on. Alright, let's make sure our repair worked good. Yeah, nice. Alright, let's put this cap back on. I'm going to put some grease around this seal right here just to help keep any water out. Alright guys, so here it is all back together again. Just put everything back away in the opposite order. I believe that piece of rubber came from this cap, because this is not the factory cap, and it looks like the this rubber part in here was cut to fit, so I think a piece might have fell down in there. But anyway, here we are in reserve. All right, so we're on reserve right there. Here's our overflow, just leaving it out here to make sure. That's all dry there. So we got nothing coming out of here. See, my finger is dry. We got nothing. It's been sitting here for about 15 minutes now. Everything runs good on it. Idle's fine, running good. And still we got nothing coming out of here. We were nice and dry. All right, guys, so all there is to it. I mean, it's pretty simple. In this one, it was just leaking over fuel out of the overflow. Just take it apart, check your float level and stuff, and check the debris and stuff, and then make sure there's nothing in there. This one wasn't too bad of a fix. I found a couple other things I fixed along the way. You know, if it's your personal bike or if it's someone's bike you're working on, make sure you look at everything. This one had a loose nut in the throttle housing, so the throttle was getting stuck, so fix that as well. But check everything when you're working on someone's bike. This one's good to go, guys. Hopefully this helped you out. Hit the like button for me. Please subscribe. Hit the bell for further notifications, guys. Until next time, this is Tepro Cycle Repair.